Hi everyone, I'm Nicole. Welcome to my channel and welcome back to the Cube series, where I take a 1-inch wooden cube and make it into something cool. Starting off with my extra firm cosplay, I put it through a pasta machine and make a nice 1-inch long strip and a nice little square. I love this grid because you can measure with it. It's for fabric, but I can do whatever I want. I'm going to be using some liquid clay adhesive from Sculpey to attach this to my wooden cube. The key here is not getting any large air pockets and really getting it stuck down. I'm using the Ace of Clay spoon tool to help me out with this, but you can use your fingies or whatever you want. I made some balls of clay so that when I make my pumpkin, all the sides are going to be even. Yes, I only show 9 because I don't know how to count apparently, but I do figure it out. I taper them and then I start layering them all around the cube. This is going to give us that nice, rounded, but also divided pumpkin shape. If your segments turn out a little bit too long like mine did, just pinch them off. Then I'm digging out a little clay to get that inverted pumpkin top shape. I like to go through and just make sure that everything's lining up correctly, and once that's done, I can start blending everything together. The trick with this pumpkin is making it cube, but also making it round. So I'm rounding out the edges to give it that classic pumpkin shape, but then I'm also going to be making sure that it's cubey. So we're doing round, but we're also doing cube. And I got so excited to make this pumpkin that I forgot it's a jack-o'-lantern and I need to make a face. But that's okay, we'll just texture it again later. So I'm using this silicone tool to give it some lines, then some tin foil, and of course, my toothbrush of texture. Because layering textures just gives it the oomph. I use a tool here to draw out the face, and then I start carving it, and this is like almost on par with carving a real pumpkin. You gotta fight for it. Did I mess it up a little bit while I was doing this? Yes, but we're gonna smooth it out and we're gonna fix it, and we're maybe gonna have to add some clay because I really did tear it up. After tearing it up and fixing it up, I did smooth it out and then retexture it because I had worn away some of my texture with my chubby little fingers. One thing I love to do is add stuff to the back of my pieces. I just feel like it's a fun hidden detail, and we're going heavy on hidden details. So I cut out this nice circle in the back, and it's going to be for a little friend later. And by later, I mean right now. And it looks like a thumb. It's going to be a ghost. Just walk with me here. The biggest thing about the little ghost is getting the right fit. Here you can see my ghost is way too long. Don't worry, I figure it out later and I chop him up. But I added some little arms and he looks a little bit like a little seal just breaching out of this pumpkin. I wanted to give him a face so I could kind of get a feel for his personality, and that's where the eyes and the mouth come in. And he's going to be a happy little ghost with one little brain cell rolling around in there. After this is when I realized that my ghost was too much of a long boy and he needed a little bit of a chop. After that, I had to refit him so he fit perfectly into the pumpkin. And then of course I dropped him and tried to catch him and just ended up destroying his face that I had to fix. The arms are very simple but very cute. I'm going to make sure that I position them just right, then I can blend them in. The reason I'm focusing on him fitting into the pumpkin just right is because we're going to cast him so we can make him glow and make him kind of see-through. Clay softener is important here because that's going to get all my fingerprints off and make him a nice smooth boy. And we're not stopping at one cube, we're making many because I wanted to fit as much Halloween goodness into this as I could, and that means more cube. This one I made out of tin foil. This is also going to be a rounded shape, a skull. So I'm using these discs to make it kind of curve like a skull, but it's going to be flat. It's so hard to explain what I'm doing. You guys get it. And of course, blendy blend. I started using my glass tiles to help me get that flat but also circular shape. And ooh, the fit is good. Now we can start detailing. I start with the eyes or the skull. What are they? Eye sockets? Anyway, it's giving Invader Zim, but don't worry, we're going to fix it. This skull goes through a very long ugly phase. We're just going to see it through. I added a triangle between the eyes for our nose, nose bone, whatever. Let's add the teeth. Now this is going to be a cutesy skull, not any way, shape, or form accurate, so just have fun with it. Of course, he must have the sharpest of cheekbones. I'm not doing the jaw because it would just kind of make everything harder, and I'm not here for that. Now the fit is important with these cubes, so I have to cut off a little bit of the teeth here, do a little dentistry, and it fits onto the pumpkin much better now. Doing the teeth chiclet style is not going to happen, so we're going to round them out and give them more of a cartoony vibe. I use this sweet little tool that I don't know the name of to dig out some of that clay so we can have some nice eye sockets. Looking a little scary, we're going to round them out and give them a little bit of personality, because you can still have a good personality even when you're dead. You can't have eye holes and then not have nose holes, so I went ahead and added that. Then I put these little lines. I don't want to say cracks, because I don't know what they are, you guys. They just make it look better, so you can put those on there. And I figured out the name of this tool that I was using. It's called a loop tool, and I use it for so much in this video. You guys got to get some. You've heard of the toothbrush of texture, but have you heard of the plastic paintbrush of texture? I use this to get into deep pockets that I want to texture. Sometimes I gotta go manual, which is annoying, but I'm a detail-oriented human being. He was giving a little too boring, a little too no personality, a little too dead, so we added some eyeballs. And of course, a hole to the back of the head. Don't worry, we're gonna put a ghost tail in there. A very simple one, but it's gonna be very effective, as Ace of Clay says. 2 cubes is not enough. We need more cube. So I went ahead and made a smaller one, covered it, and I am still pulling faux fur from my last art doll that I made in the last video. I'm so over it. Anyway, make a noodle, a nice long noodle. This is gonna be for a cauldron that we're gonna fill full of candy. Make sure to blend the ends of your snake really well or it's gonna look wonky. And then I need to blend it into the cauldron itself so it is fully formed. Once it is fully formed, you're gonna put the line back in. I know, but you gotta blend it before you separate it. Now I can introduce you to the rock of texture. I'm not kidding, I have had this rock for like 8 years, and it gives the best cauldron texture, rock texture, all sorts of texture. And since I'm such a fan of texture, I add more texture with my toothbrush of texture. That's a lot of textures. Anyway, we need handles for a cauldron. They're pretty simple to make. Just make sure you blend in the metal part that holds the handle really well and texture it all so it's one cohesive tiny little cauldron. After baking, I set it on my skull, which is not baked, so that I can push it in and give it a little spot to nestle into. To crown this cube, we're going to add a crow, the cutest little goth boy and king of candy. I start with this little blob. It's a little bit tapered, but then I start making it more bird by adding a bird head and just blending everything together. I like to start with just a basic shape, even if it don't look good, and then you just add to it. The shape's going to show you what's missing and where to put it. And of course, he needs to be thick. I love me some thick round birds. He was not thick enough, so we commenced the thickening of making him thick boy. Obviously he's eating a ton of candy, he's going to be round. I flattened the little tail out so that it fits over the top of the cauldron. His beak was lacking some beakness, so I added to that as well. And a crow needs some wings. I start off with the basic bird wing shape. Super easy, blend everything together. Once we start working out the details, it's all going to come together. But right now, it's about blending. The boy be blended, so now we can start detailing our bird. I'm just separating all of our shapes with detail. Off camera, I took a razor blade and cut the beak in half because he's going to be holding something in his beak. But we need some eyeballs to bring this guy to life. This is the easiest way I've ever found to make eyeballs, and I love doing it this way. Separate them wings. And just add a few lines, and boom, you're going to have a cute little crow. I need to add candy to this, so I added a little disc of clay just so he sits in there nicely and attaches and is lifted just a teeny bit. Since this cube stack is all about Halloween, we gotta add candy, and I'm making a big honkin' tiny candy corn. Look, it's big for him, but it's tiny for us. You know what I mean? And I make sure to glue it to the beak or it will fall out. Twisting 2 little snakes of clay together, we get an adorable little twisty candy that we can cut to size. For my candy shapes, I went pretty simple. I did these little twisty guys, I did some gumballs, I did some little chocolate chunks, and I also did some tiny gummy worms because they're my favorite. I made sure to fully bake these so that I don't break them while putting them into the cauldron. Our liquid clay adhesive is going to keep all our little pieces of candy from falling out. Now I want this cauldron to overflow with candy. So I get my tweezers and I shove in as much as I possibly can around this chunky little crow. Cosplay makes their own version of liquid clay, and this was great for using a brush to put it all around the candies. This kind of adhered everything together and it got in all the little nooks and crannies and kind of filled it up, which made it easier to paint and also look better. If you get too much on there, you can use a little bit of alcohol to remove it. You may remember from one of my previous cubes, I had a little worm friend, and I wanted to add him again. Isn't he cute? Now we can get to our ghost. We need to make him out of resin, so we're going to make a mold. While that's curing, we can make our bat. I start off with a circle and 2 triangles and blend them together. This is going to make a very easy but very adorable little guy. I made some bigger triangles that are more elongated to make the wings. All about blending here. Once I attach the wings, I can form them into that little triangle bat shape. And we're going to add some detail. Gotta add a little fancy. He may be small, but he need detail. And we're going to make some little ear details as well. Using my loop tool again to make an adorable little snoot, mouth, whatever, you know what I mean. And some eyeballs. I decided to add a tiny bit more detail because I love it. Speaking of detail, our crow, he looked naked, so we're going to make a hat. A cute little witch hat. It's super easy. Triangle on a disc, you blend it. I say it's easy, it took me 4 tries to get it the right size. It was hilarious. Also made me mad. I learned this little technique from Use of Clay to give the fabric a cool little texture. Sorry not sorry that I mention my friends a million times in my videos. Glue your hat on so it doesn't fall off. And then you can bake it. But not before you add a little ribbon around it, because we like fancy. I do not like the wood of my cube showing. I like it completely hidden, clothed in clay. So I'm going to jam some clay in our jack-o'-lantern. I give it a little texture, smoothed it out just a little bit with some clay softener. We're going to set that aside and work on our ghost. I mixed up some epoxy resin, added some colorant, and a ton of glow powder, and a teeny bit of glitter. I make sure to mix everything really well, making sure that there's no clumps. Then, with my mold cured, I can pour the resin into it and let it cure. And, there were bubbles. Bubbles are the nemesis of anybody who works with resin, and this is why I should have used my pressure pot. I used to use resin professionally and sell art toys made of them, and I forgot what a giant pain in the butt resin can be. Even my mold had bubbles. So I went ahead and did this all over again, but I pressure cured both the resin and the mold, and you can see, no bubbles. I did get a little bit of glow powder stuck in the face, but I chiseled it out and then covered it with some paint. I'm just getting rid of my vents here and a little bit of flashing, and I give him a light little sand. Now for one of my favorite parts, which is painting. Oh, it's so satisfying. I want to give this guy some dimension. I don't want him to be too boring and flat, so I'm just highlighting some of the darker areas here and around the top, so everything looks kind of cool, kind of shaded. Pure white is just way too boring. Even for the oranges, I'm going to use multiple colors, starting with a darker orange, then we're going to highlight with a lighter one. This is going to brighten them up a bit. I repeat these colors that I'm using here throughout the whole piece. That helps keep everything cohesive and looks like it belongs together. I use purple for the hat, slightly darker than the bat so that they're not matchy-matchy. And then I started up with my black. I didn't go all the way to the top because I'm not good at airbrushing and I get it everywhere, but I just went ahead and painted it. I added a tiny bit of blue to the crow to give it that iridescent look that they have, and a white base coat for our candy cord so I can get my colors nice and bright. When working this small, the key is going to be a tiny paintbrush, a steady hand, and multiple coats of the same color. Then I can go through with some black and clean up any of the overpainting. Now most crow's eyes are black, but that's going to blend in too much, so I'm going to use some yellow. I painted the pupils off camera because it was a mess, you guys, just a real mess, but I did work it out. We're going to use blue to highlight all our details so that they don't blend in either. Our band on the hat gets a nice coat of green. I was going to add some spots to it, but sometimes you gotta know when enough is enough. The cauldron gets a nice coat of dry brush silver to really bring out the detail and make it shine a little bit. The candy was a challenge because it was so tiny, but it was also very satisfying to paint. I used some fun bright colors and repeated some of them so it didn't look too crazy. If you want a smooth result, I recommend using either a watered down paint or paint with lower viscosity and doing multiple coats. This is going to give you a nice smooth finish. I wanted to make sure to highlight all the details on our tiny little bat here, so that even though he's small, all little details stand out. I think the crow and the bat are my favorite. I'm curious to know what yours is. Now I'm going to cover up the little bit of glow powder that was left with some paint, and this is going to give our guy some personality. Even when he's glowing, you'll be able to see his little face. We're going to keep our skeleton spooky by giving him some very intense, creepy eyeballs. I'm using green and yellow and then just a dot of red. I didn't make these details so that they might not be noticed, so we're going to go ahead and highlight those because we worked hard on them, so you're going to see them. And of course our worm friend is going to get a nice coat of earthworm pink. I don't know what facial expression this is, but I love it. I'm going to highlight his earthworminess, his little rings. Then I added a slightly lighter orange to the inside and some brown mixed with orange to highlight our details. I wanted it to look like he was glowing from the inside, so I did a very bright yellow to the most inner area of the pumpkin. Since the ghost is transparent, I do not want the orange to conflict with the blue of the ghost, so we're going to paint the inside part white. And to keep it real, just know that off screen, this is what my work area looks like. This is actually pretty tame for me. With everybody painted, now we can glue them together. I like to scratch off a little paint between the layers to make sure that it's adhering to each other and not just the paint layer. Once everything was glued together, I did spray it down with a matte finishing spray to protect the paint, but I need to gloss up my cute little worm. Don't forget to glue in your tail. I wanted my bat to be flying, so I made this little loop-de-doo with some wire and attached it to my pumpkin, which was harder than it looked. For all of this, I'm using Aleene's The Ultimate Glue. It's a fast-drying glue. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. And I just want to say that glowing items are impossible to photograph, and I did my best.